Hello and welcome everyone to this video presentation about Assessment 1 for the World of Maths. So at the moment I'm on the About This Unit page, and here we can see it covers the aim of the unit learning outcomes, and it also has an overview of the assessments that are due throughout the teaching period. So as we are focusing on Assessment 1, we can see Assessment 1 essay, 1500 words. It's an individual task and it's related to the learning objective number 5. So if you scroll back up, we can see our unit learning outcome number 5. Describe the nature and development of mathematical thinking and numeracy processes in children. What I'd also like to draw your attention to are the assessment supports that we have for you. So if we click on assessment support, we can see that we have an infographic available around assessment help. We also have plagiarism help, and we also have access to your tutor. So please make yourself familiar with these in order to be able to assist you with your assessment. So let's go to the Assessments tab. We click on that and we can see that we have our assessment declaration and statement of authorship. So please ensure that you make yourself familiar with this. It is about avoiding plagiarism and understanding that it is your work, and any resources that you use that is of other people's work, that you are acknowledging them. So again, we can see the assessment is outlined there, and the due date, which is 9 AM Australian Eastern Standard Time, Friday 22nd of April. So that's the Friday of week 6. So we scroll down and we see Assessment 1 essay. Click on that. And we can also see some additional assistance here about preparing for your essay, highlighting that the base of our essay is really covered in weeks 3 and 4, so it's really important that you do make yourself familiar with those weeks, that you participate in the activities, and this will help you with your assessment. And that also within the student toolbox, there's also Write at University, the essay, so that provides some useful tips as well. So let's click on Open the Assessment 1 essay document, and we can see the PDF comes up with the information that you require for this. So we can see the word limit is 1500 words plus or minus 10%. The weighting is 30% of the overall 100% for the whole teaching period, and that the due date is 9 AM Australian Eastern Standard Time, Friday 22nd of April, which is the end of week 6, so just prior to the consolidation week. So we can see with the assessment overview that this assessment requires you to write an essay that explores the way in which we teach mathematics in a contemporary learning environment. So this essay is asking you to write a response to the following quote. It is crucial to develop in children the ability to tackle problems with initiative and confidence. Mathematics has changed from careful rehearsal of standard procedures to a focus on mathematical thinking and communication to prepare them for the world of tomorrow. So what we're asking you to do is to write an essay, and it needs to be informed by your understanding of theories and contemporary perspectives of the nature and development of children's mathematical thinking. So weeks 3 and 4 of the learning materials will give you an understanding of both historical and contemporary perspectives. So these weeks also show the impact of these perspectives upon pedagogy in contemporary education across early childhood and primary contexts. So again, it's really important to make yourself familiar with those weeks, be involved in the activities, and make sure that you're really active in the discussion board so that we're learning together, so the social constructivist approach, so that we are able to ask questions and really deepen our understanding throughout those activities. So we've also got an outline of what the essay structure should look like. So the introduction is approximately 10% of the word count, so we're looking at around about 150 words. And this is where you need to write a clear introduction which frames the essay. So then with the main body, we're asking you to identify and briefly discuss the quote to scaffold the following sections of the essay. So what we'd like you to do is select and justify one theoretical perspective on learning. So for example, constructivism or behaviourism that you believe is best suited to the learning and teaching of maths. We'd like you to demonstrate a thorough understanding of the selected theoretical perspective and also explain why it is better suited, in comparison to one other theoretical perspective, to the learning and teaching of maths. We'd like you to also identify and describe why maths teaching and learning has left behind rehearsal and should be about playfulness, fun and creativity. So this links to pedagogy. With the conclusion, again, we're looking at around about 10% of the word count, so about 150 words. So your conclusion is a detailed summary about the nature and development of mathematical thinking and numeracy processes in children in the 21st century. Please ensure you also include a reference list. So you can see here when we're saying select and justify, we'd like you to justify using academic resources. So it's really important that when you use those resources and you cite them in text, that you acknowledge those authors. So if you do a direct quote or you paraphrase, it's really important that you reference according to APA standard. If you have any questions about that, please ensure you use the student toolbox. There are resources there to help you with your referencing, and that you also include a reference list of any resources that you've used within your essay, which is at the end of the essay. So your reference list, and that also needs to be in APA style. The submission details, so they're within the Assessment 1 folder in Blackboard. So for the assessment criteria, you can see Assessment Criteria 1, knowledge and understanding of learning theory. Assessment Criteria 2, knowledge of pedagogy, and Assessment Criteria 3, format and structure. So as you can see here, we've got a holistic rubric that we'll be using. So I'm just going to scroll down and you'll see that we don't have separate criteria that we're assessing. I'm just going to pull up, and this is also in your student, in the ELA portal, where we do have assessment criteria, marking guides and rubrics, and this gives some information about the different kinds of rubrics that you may see throughout your course. So here you can see we may use an analytic and holistic rubrics, and for this one we've got a holistic rubric. So when we scroll down, it gives an explanation about a holistic rubric, and it's used to assess your learning as a whole rather than looking at individual criteria marked separately. Holistic rubrics have standard statements about what is required to achieve a particular standard. In this way, you can look at what needs to be achieved for each level of achievement as a whole. So there's some really good information here. I really can't say enough of how important it is to make yourself familiar with this. What it means is that we're looking at, so it says here, always start with the requirements for a pass, making sure you can address all of the descriptors. So here we also say you cannot perform extremely well in 2 or 3 descriptors to compensate for one substandard area or ignore a descriptor, and thereby hope to slide up to the next standard of achievement. So really important. Go and have a look at the past one. We're going to head back there now. So we look at the past standard, and the descriptors here ask you to include within your essay a theoretical perspective that has been identified. However, there might be some confusion in the justification. You need to acknowledge another theoretical perspective, however it might be limited. You also need to identify, the identification of engaging math pedagogy is satisfactory, but the description is based around personal opinion with limited justification. There is spelling, grammar and punctuation errors which may detract from the essay. There's an introduction and conclusion. They're included, but there is a minimal flow between paragraphs. APA formatting guidelines for referencing are present, but references aren't consistently formatted or accurate, and some resources and reference have been used, but they are limited. So if you would like to progress to a credit, you need to ensure that you have everything in the pass level at a really high standard, and then you also need to be looking at what is required for a credit level. If you would like to aim for an HD, you're looking at everything included in the prior pass credit distinction level. But for a high distinction, we're looking at the theoretical perspective has been clearly identified and has been justified in detail as the best approach for teaching and learning maths. The comparison demonstrates a deep understanding of another theoretical perspective. There is extensive evidence that supports the chosen theoretical perspective as more appropriate than the others. There is an inviting introduction and a clear conclusion with a cohesive and persuasive argument developed through careful attention to connections within and between paragraphs. There are no significant spelling, grammar, or punctuation errors, and references meet APA formatting guidelines, and there is an extensive reference list with good quality academic resources. So, that's the overview for Assessment 1 for the World of Maths for Teaching Period 1 2016. We look forward to seeing you in the Collaborate sessions, which the ELAs will run. Please ensure you come along with questions or pop your questions in the discussion board prior to the Collaborate session so that we're aware and we can prepare for those questions that you will have. Thank you.